Hi. Today we're not doing any more philosophy deep dives. Actually, we might be even taking a step back into some older videos, doing some straight up science. The sole mission of this channel is to bring you one step closer to living a more happy and fulfilled life, or as I call it, a more maximized experience. We've been exploring philosophy because in its essence, an unexamined life is not one really worth living. But understanding your mind is ultimately only half the equation because you also experience life through your body. You might have the sharpest mind in the world, but if you're constantly unfocused, fatigued, or physically weak, you will be living life at a fraction of your potential. Your body is the vehicle through which you move through and engage with reality. If that vehicle isn't running efficiently, it doesn't matter how much you optimize your mind, you will never be working at full capacity. And energy is one of the most important factors in that equation. Hence why we're talking about creatine. Now, contrary to popular belief, creatine isn't just about building muscle and becoming a bodybuilder. It's one of the simplest, safest, and most effective ways to improve your body's ability to generate energy, which impacts not just your physical performance, but also arguably brain function, focus, and recovery. And despite being one of the most well-researched supplements in existence, there's still so much confusion and misinformation floating around it. So I did what I do best, and I did so much research, and I read way too many studies. And dare I say, I've created the last video you will ever need to watch on creatine. So let's start by examining how creatine even works. Now, before we dive into all the science, let me just give you a quick version for all of those who don't really care about the details. Creatine is a natural compound made in your kidneys and in your liver. Its sole job is to help your body produce more energy. But there's a slight problem with that. Your body has a limited capacity to produce it.
So we don't have the capacity.
So by supplementing it, you boost your creatine stores significantly, giving you essentially free energy for your body and muscles to use. If that's all you need to know, feel free to skip ahead to the timestamp or to the next chapter. But if you want to actually understand the mechanics, then stick around and I'll break it down as fast as possible. Your body naturally produces creatine through 3 amino acids: arginine, glycine, and methionine. These are called non-essential amino acids, which means your body can produce them on their own without needing to get them from food sources. This creatine is produced in your liver and kidneys, where it goes through your bloodstream and is stored into your muscles until you need a quick energy boost. Every single movement your body makes, whether it's lifting weights, sprinting, or even blinking, requires energy. And that energy comes from a molecule known as ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, is like your body's rechargeable battery, and it releases energy when it's needed. Triphosphate means it has 3 phosphate groups. When your muscles need energy, ATP breaks apart, losing 1 phosphate group and turning into adenosine diphosphate, also known as ADP. This process is also known as ATP hydrolysis. Adenosine diphosphate, ADP, is almost like a dead battery, and it needs to be recharged and turned into ATP for it to be used again. Your body makes ATP inside of the mitochondria.
The mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell.
It does this by breaking down food sources like glucose from carbs, fats, and ketones from fat metabolism. However, the problem is that your muscles only store a few seconds worth of ATP. Once it's used up, you quickly lose power until you can make more. This is where creatine phosphate comes in, which acts almost like a charger for your muscles. When your ATP runs out, creatine phosphate pulls up, donates its phosphate molecule to the ADP, turning it back into ATP through a process known as ATP phosphorylation. More ATP equals more energy for high intensity exercise. All right, now that we understand the mechanisms for how creatine works, let's see how this translates to real life. The numbers are actually ridiculous, and I'm gonna speed run through this, so strap in. Here are some of the physical benefits. Strength and power: 5 to 15% increase in maximal strength and power output across multiple studies. 8 to 14% improvement in repeated sprint performance, making it a game changer for sports that demand explosive bursts of speed. 5 to 12% increase in 1 rep max strength, squat, bench, and deadlift with long-term use. 2 to 6% improvement in isometric strength, helping with static holds and explosive movements. Then we have muscle growth and hypertrophy. 1 to 2 kg of lean mass gained within just 1 week of creatine loading, albeit most of this is water weight. 60% greater muscle growth over time, specifically in type 2 fibers. 15 to 20% increase in total work capacity during high-intensity resistance training, when you can push harder for longer, recruiting more muscle units. Anaerobic performance in sprinting. 42% increase in total work performed during high-intensity cycling tests. 3 to 5% improvement in vertical jump height, meaning better explosive power. 4 to 10% boost in peak power output during Wingate sprint tests, which is a standard for measuring anaerobic performance. 5 to 10% improvement in anaerobic threshold and time to exhaustion, keeping you in the fight for longer. Then we have recovery and injury prevention. 25% reduction in muscle damage markers, including lactate dehydrogenase, which means less soreness and faster recovery. Reduced inflammation post-exercise, helping your muscles repair faster. Better glycogen resynthesis, meaning you bounce back from training sessions quicker. Lower injury risk in contact sports thanks to increased muscle hydration and improved resistance to strain injuries. And then we have fat loss and muscle retention during cutting. 10% higher muscle mass retention while cutting, meaning you hold on to strength even in a calorie deficit. Better body composition, allowing you to lose fat while preserving lean muscle mass. Then we have endurance and cardiovascular benefits. 1 to 9% improvement in endurance performance measured by time to exhaustion, and potential enhancement of VO2 max, improving aerobic performance, better oxygen transport and blood flow, benefiting long duration sports. Creatine also has impacts across a plethora of different sports. Explosive sports, so we have track sprints, 60 to 200 meters, swimming sprints, 50 meters, and pursuit cycling. Team sports, basketball, football, ice hockey, volleyball, soccer. Combat sports such as MMA, wrestling, boxing, and endurance sports such as football, tennis, long distance cycling. Yes, even for those endurance athletes, creatine can provide an edge. So yeah, whether you're lifting, sprinting, fighting, or playing a sport that demands endurance, creatine isn't just helpful, it's borderline OP. And this isn't just theory, this is hard data. And yet, despite all of this research, there is still a mind-numbing amount of misinformation floating around this topic. So before you run out and grab a tub, let's go over some of the biggest myths that some people believe. Myth number 1, creatine is a steroid. This one is insane. No, not even close. Steroids are synthetic hormones that manipulate your body's testosterone levels. Creatine is a naturally occurring compound found in your body and even in the food that you consume. It has nothing to do with hormones, it just helps your body restore energy faster. Myth number 2, you need to creatine cycle. No, not true. Your body already produces creatine on a daily basis. You do not need a break. You can take creatine year-round, whether you're bulking or cutting or even maintaining. And this kind of ties us into myth number 3, which is creatine makes you bloated. This one's half right, but completely and totally misunderstood. Yes, creatine holds water, but it's within your muscle cells, not under your skin, which is what normal bloating looks like. This actually makes your muscles look fuller, not puffy. And so help me God if I hear one more woman say they don't want to be bulky. And if anything, creatine can actually help you with fat loss. Because as we've established, creatine can actually help with muscle retention during cutting phases, leading you to look toned. I can't believe I just said that word. Myth number 4, I'm gonna have an aneurysm. Creatine damages your kidneys. This one makes no sense. Your kidneys naturally produce creatine. Why would supplementing it damage your kidneys? I believe the confusion comes from serum creatinine levels, which can actually be higher in creatine users, but creatinine is just a breakdown product of creatine. It's not really a reliable marker of kidney damage, especially in users that consume creatine on a daily basis. Plenty of studies have tested long-term creatine usage, with some of them even going up to 30 grams of creatine a day for 5 years. That's 6 times the normal amount of creatine, with no harmful effects. Myth number 5, creatine stunts growth in teenagers. No study has ever shown any negative effect on teenagers or children taking creatine. If anything, having more ATP means more muscle growth, which actually means they can be bigger. And last but not least, possibly the sanest myth of them all. Myth number 6, you have to load creatine. This one kind of true. Loading does work, but it's not necessary. Yes, taking about 20 grams a day of creatine will saturate your creatine stores faster, which I didn't actually mention the mechanisms, but it's a pretty important part of creatine. Creatine will not show you instant day-to-day effects. You need to saturate it first. It needs to be in your system for a while to start seeing any relevant effects from it. If you take just 5 grams a day, you'll get there in 3 to 4 weeks without any of the tummy problems, which, trust me, is not worth it. If you really want to creatine load, I would recommend taking either 5 to 10 grams in the morning and 5 to 10 grams in the evening. That's worked for me, and that works for a bunch of people without giving you that creatine tummy, which is not pleasant. So now that we have cleared up the misinformation and I've kept my sanity somehow, let's move on to one of the most interesting parts of creatine, which is how creatine actually affects your mind, your brain. Your brain may be a little bit tiny, but it is an energy monster and actually burns through 20% of your total energy. Every thought, reaction, and decision relies on ATP fueling the neurons responsible for those. And creatine has the potential to help regenerate the ATP stores of said neurons. Neurons fire by exchanging charged ions, a process that rapidly depletes ATP. When energy runs low, brain function slows. Creatine helps by boosting ATP and thus keeping neural activity efficient. But here's the million-dollar question. Does enough creatine actually reach the brain to make a difference? Unlike muscles, which absorb creatine super easily, the brain has a protective barrier known as the blood-brain barrier, which makes it harder for things to get in. There are a couple of studies that do examine creatine's impact on the brain. However, science isn't about absolute truth. Science concerns itself with comparing bodies of literature and comparing strength of data. Right now, the research on creatine's cognitive benefits is incredibly interesting, but not super conclusive. While some studies show promising impacts on the brain, other studies show little to no impact on certain groups. Personally, I don't think the body of literature around creatine's cognitive benefits is compelling enough to say that creatine is a game changer for the brain. The results are still very promising. And that's the nature of science. It is ever changing and ever evolving. More research is definitely needed, but as studies come out, we start to get a clearer and clearer picture. So now I'm going to speed run again through all of the results from all of the research that I've looked at. However, I want you to take these results with a pinch of salt. Okay, let's do this. Memory boost. Strong evidence for older adults, minor effects for younger individuals. Cognitive performance under stress may improve reaction time, executive function, decision-making during sleep deprivation and mental fatigue, faster thinking and sharper focus, potential improvements in processing speed and attention, particularly in high-demanding tasks. Mood and mental health, promising but not conclusive for treating depression, anxiety, and PTSD by supporting brain energy metabolism. Brain protection longevity may reduce oxidative stress, potentially slowing cognitive decline and protecting against neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Faster recovery from brain injuries. Some evidence suggests it can help with concussions and traumatic brain injury recovery. Potential intelligence boost, maybe. Weak but interesting findings on abstract reasoning and working memory. Mental endurance and fatigue resistance might help with reduced mental fatigue and increased cognitive stamina in challenging tasks. One study found improved total sleep duration in resistance-trained females, but effects on overall sleep quality are unclear. It's also been found to potentially enhance brain excitability and motor learning, potentially aiding in reaction time and skill acquisition. And finally, creatine deficiency treatment. This is essential for individuals with creatine deficiency syndromes, helping with intellectual disabilities, autism, and seizure disorders. Okay, that was the last speedrun I'm doing for this video, and this should be the end of the sciencey stuff. So we've established how amazing, wonderful, fantastic, perfect, flawless, awesome creatine is, but you may be asking, Lorenzo, where do I get it and how do I take it? Well, my friend, it gets even better. It's literally just one ingredient. Creatine monohydrate. There are no fancy formulas, no overpriced gimmicks, and there's no solid evidence that any of the more advanced compounds actually have any differences to creatine monohydrate, and creatine monohydrate is the most studied of them all. And buying it is stupidly simple. Look at the product, check the ingredients list. If the only ingredient is creatine monohydrate, buy it. You are golden, you don't need to look at anything else. Now, two big warnings, two big things to avoid. Number one, creatine gummies. Massive lawsuits happening right now because creatine gummies have been found to have almost no fucking creatine. Do not buy creatine gummies. There are other better ways to take it without getting the weird powdery taste in your mouth. Personally, I use capsules, but we'll dive into that in a second. Secondly, watch out for the overpriced next-gen blends. Creatine HCl, buffed creatine, creatine nitrate, I think. There's no real proven science around these, so take it if you want, but again, creatine monohydrate is the most researched one, so I'd stick to that, and personally, I do stick to it. Going back to it, there are two ways I'd recommend taking it, either with the scoop powder, so mix it into a liquid, or be a fucking absolute insane person and dry scoop it, or take it in capsule format, which is gonna bring up the cost a little bit, but it should still relatively be inexpensive. I don't know. That's how I take it. I take 4 capsules a day of Creapure, I think from Optimum Nutrition. Not sponsored, but I would enjoy that very much. Here's a quick tip. If you're gonna take powdered creatine, I'd mix it with a liquid that can be warmed up, like milk, chocolate milk, preferably, okay, if you're the goat. Creatine is hydrophobic, which means it does not mix well with liquids, especially at room temperature. If you heat it up, it'll dissolve, no problemo, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So I highly, highly recommend dissolving it into something warm. But Lorenzo, how much do I take? Do I take it before my workout? Do I take it after my workout? Do I take, shut the fuck. The standard dose for creatine is 5 grams a day. That's all you need to saturate your muscles over time. Again, some people can't live without a loading phase where they use 20 grams of creatine a day for a week to saturate their muscles, but that is not really necessary. If you just take 5 to 10 grams a day, you'll reach the saturation levels within 3 to 4 weeks. So no problem. The time will pass anyways, okay? If you're gonna take this for the rest of your life, you don't need to have it instantly for a week and shit your brains out. Again, if you wanna load 5 to 10 grams in the morning, 5 to 10 grams in the evening, should be no problem for stomach, but maybe good, maybe shit. It really depends on the quality of your stomach. Now, some research shows that going above 10 grams a day might improve cognitive benefits, which makes some sense. Maybe you get more creatine through that blood-brain barrier, but again, no conclusive research is done. I personally take 10 grams a day just because I like it, and I find that I respond really well to creatine. In my head, the more I take, the better I respond, but you can take 5 grams if you would like. Timing wise, it doesn't matter at all. The supplement is piss easy to take. You can take it before your workout, after your workout, at dinner, at lunch, in the morning, in the afternoon. It doesn't matter at all. Take it whenever you want. Just find a way to habit stack it. For example, I take it with all of my other supplements to integrate into my daily routine, but you can do whatever you want. All bueno, no problemo. Here's the bottom line before my camera runs out of battery. Oh my god. Creatine is one of the safest, most well-researched, and most effective supplements that you can take on a daily basis. For muscle performance, actually for any sport performance, the benefits are undeniable. The amount of research that I read has actually made me want to... For brain function, the research is interesting, but still not completely conclusive, so I'm not going to stake my reputation on it, but hey, if it works, it works. It's cheap, widely available, you can get this anywhere, very easy to take, so highly, 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 highly recommend you integrate it into part of your daily routine. But let's be real, there's no magic pills, no magic supplements. This isn't gonna make you a 140 IQ individual overnight. This is gonna make you jacked overnight. If you still eat like shit, if you still don't train, if you still sleep like shit, you are going to live like shit. Proper sleep, nutrition, and exercise is the building block and the staple to any healthy and fit life. So make sure you're doing those. And that's really what matters and what this channel is all about. I don't want to just see you lift heavy and run faster. I want you to live a more happy, fulfilling, and energetic life. Now, quickly before my camera dies, would you like to see more breakdowns like this? Did you enjoy the science content? Did you enjoy the editing change? Do you like the new setup? Do you like the new camera? If you do, please let me know in the comments. I'm planning to make more science-based videos, even if you don't give a fuck, because it interests me and I think it's genuinely very helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I love you so very much, and buy creatine. Super cheap, super easy. I have no promo code. I don't gain anything from this besides seeing you be a happier individual. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Holy shit, this one took me a while. Ugh.